In Monster Hunter World, there are many aspects to consider when taking on a hunt. The target, your weapon, these are all important, but hunters who want optimal performance need to consider the build they use via the gear and armor they wear. I'm Darcblade, and here are the builds that I use for the lance. The skills that you gain from armor and even some weapons can help shape your hunter into specialized hunting machines. With the lance, I've gone for a mix of builds, some focusing on offense, the rest defense. The lance is one of the best defensive weapons in the game, and if played right, even with an offensive build, you still should be quite difficult to bring down. And when the lance is coupled with defensive builds and health regen builds, you become a tank. Anyway, the first build I use is the Elementless build. This is a straightforward damage dealing build that actually isn't too hard to craft. It could almost also be seen as a budget build. And while the build may not be perfect, it has some of the highest raw attack a lance build can have. Anyway, for this build you'll need the Nergigante Helm Beta, Dobermel Beta, the Draken Van Braces Alpha, Nergigante Coil Beta, and the Nergigante Greaves Beta. I've also gone for an Exploiter Charm too, and for my weapon I'm using the Broth Stinger 3 with 3 affinity increases on it. This is to counter the negative affinity of this weapon. As for your jewels, the main one to take is the Elementless jewel. This will boost the power of weapons that don't have an element or have their element hidden. I've also added a sharp jewel to help me keep my blue sharpness a little bit longer. Unfortunately this weapon couldn't get to white sharpness, I would have liked it to, but the Broth Stinger unfortunately doesn't go past blue, so I went for the sharp jewel this time, to at least keep it blue for a little longer. Afterwards I've gone for attack jewels, expert jewels, tenderizer jewels and critical jewels to help boost my attack and affinity. Now if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 582 attack, blue sharpness, 50% affinity, which is actually 100% should you be going for weak points, with a decent defense although you're weak against thunder. As for your skills, you'll have the following: attack boost level 6. If you're going to go for attack boost, always try to get to at least level 4, so you get the bonus affinity that comes with it. You have critical eye level 4, critical boost level 4, that increases the damage of critical attacks. Weakness exploit level 3, which increases your affinity when you're attacking weak points. Maximum might level 3, that increases your affinity when you have maximum stamina. Protective polish, that applies a protective polish over your sharpness gauge, preventing sharpness loss, and non-elemental boost level 1. You'll also have the Nergigante's Hunger set bonus, Hasten Recovery, which allows for some health regen when you're attacking a monster, adding a little survivability to this build. As you can see, overall this build is quite straightforward. It's nothing too fancy, and it's fairly easy to craft. If you're struggling to get the Draken Van Braces, these can easily be replaced, and you could even swap out some of the jewels if you're looking to change this build to make it a little bit more defensive. For example, you could take out Protective Polish via the Sharp Jewel in favour of Guard Up via the Shield Jewel to allow you to block unblockable attacks. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Affinity build. This is a build all about affinity, trying to get a high affinity rating without having to rely too much on weakness exploit or maximum might. Again, this is a DPS focused build over a defensive build. So for this build you'll need the Kaiser Ground Gamma, the Kulftrof's Aya Beta, the Kaiser Van Braces Gamma, Nergigante Coil Beta, and the Kaiser Greaves Gamma. I've also gone with an Attack Charm 3, and for my weapon I'm using the Garon Dahara 2. This has an affinity increase augmentation on it, as well as an attack increase augmentation on it. This weapon is the Dogoron Lance, and in all honesty it could be replaced with the Taroth Crest Claw, which is the Kulftrof version of the Dogoron weapon, but unfortunately I was not able to get it. However, going with the bog standard Dogoron weapon means that you do not have to worry about handicraft with this build whatsoever. Anyway, moving on to the gems. First of all, I've gone with an Elementless gem, as the Dogoron Lance is actually Elementless, so this will boost its attack. Afterwards, I've gone for jewels to help my attack boost and affinity via attack, tenderizer and critical jewels. Lastly, I had a spare slot, so I've added a shield jewel to provide me with the guard up skill, allowing me to block unblockable attacks. Now if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 527 attack, white sharpness, 75% affinity, which will be over 100% should you be going for weak points, and you have a very strong defense against fire, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. As for your skills, you'll have attack boost level 7, critical eye level 7, critical boost level 3, stun resistance level 2, a byproduct of the gear but nonetheless can still be useful, weakness exploit level 2. You only really need to go up to level 2 with weakness exploit, as you already have 75% base affinity, and already having 2 points in weakness exploit means that you've gone over 100% affinity, and level 3 would be even more of a waste. You'll have guard up level 1 and non-elemental boost level 1. You also have the set bonus Master's Touch from the Teostra's technique. preventing sharpness loss on a weapon when you crit a monster. So in theory, potentially every hit you do against a monster with this build should be critting, especially if you're aiming for weak points, meaning that you won't see any sharpness loss in your weapon, meaning that you shouldn't have to sharpen the weapon whatsoever. As for building this build, it is unfortunately relying on the Teostra Gamma set via the Kaiser armor pieces. I suppose you could replace these with the Beta and Alpha pieces, but it would be an inferior build to this one. As I also said, you could replace the weapon with the Kulftaroth Claw variant, but it means you may have to drop the attack charm free in favour for the handicraft charm. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Fiendish Tower build. This is a build all about the Deviljho lance, which has one of the highest attack ratings in the game. Again, this is a pretty straightforward damage dealing build using the Deviljho lance. So for this build you'll need the Nergigante Helm Beta, Draken Mail Alpha, Draken Vambraces Alpha, Draken Coil Alpha and Draken Greaves Alpha. I'm also using the Handicraft Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Fiendish Tower with an affinity increase on it and an attack increase augmentation on it. As for your jaws, none of them are really mandatory. I've simply added an attack jaw to get attack boost to level 4, and then I've gone for Mighty Expert Tenderizer and critical jaws to help boost and max out various affinity based skills. Now if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 600 and free attack, white sharpness, 50% affinity so long as you have maximum stamina, and this will actually be 100% should you be going for weak points, 210 dragon rating with high elder seal, and when it comes to defense you're fairly strong against thunder and dragon, but below average against the rest. As for your skills, you'll have the following: critical eye level 7, attack boost level 4, critical boost level 3, weakness exploit level 3, handicraft level 3, maximum might level 3, and power prolonger level 1. Power prolonger is not needed on this build whatsoever, it's just a byproduct of the armor we're wearing. You'll also have the following set bonuses: Soul of the Dragon Elemental Airborne, that increases elemental damage when you're doing jumping attacks, and Master's Touch that prevents sharpness loss so long as you crit a monster. Now with this build, so long as you're going for weak points, you shouldn't see much sharpness loss whatsoever. Now again, this is a DPS focused build. If you did want to swap out one of the jaws in favour of the guard up skill, i.e. the shield jaw, that is perfectly acceptable. Swapping out maybe one of the critical jaws would be suggested for that. But nonetheless, this is another lance build that can bring monsters down fairly quickly. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the free elemental build. This is an elemental build focusing on the Kulftaroth weapons that have their element hidden. In the case of this build, we're using the Taroth Crest Thunder, so it's a thunder based build. This build leans slightly more to DPS, but it does have some defensive options available to it. So for this build we're using the Wrath Soul Helm Beta, the Rathalos Mel Beta, the Kaiser Vambraces Beta, the Kulftaroth's Malice Beta and the Kirin Legguards Beta. I'm also using a Mighty Charm 2, and for my weapon, like I said, I'm using the Taroth Crest Thunder with a health regen augmentation on it, which should help to the build's survivability a little. As for your jaws, I've gone for bolt jaws to increase the thunder rating of the weapon. Afterwards I've gone for a sharp jaw to allow me to keep that blue sharpness for a little bit longer. Unfortunately the weapon cannot get to white sharpness, so we're going to have to make do with blue. And then I've gone for a shield jaw to give me the guard up skill, and then a mighty and expert jaw to help the affinity slightly. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have build with 100 health, 100 stamina, 400 of free attack, blue sharpness, 53% affinity, which will be 100% so long as you have maximum stamina and going for weak points, 760 thunder rating with a decent defense against fire and thunder, but you're fairly weak to ice. As for your skills, you'll have Thunder Attack level 5, Free Element level 3, which brings out the hidden element of weapons that have their element rating in grey. Weakness Exploit level 3, Maximum Might level 3, Critical Eye level 1, Critical Boost level 1, not really needed on this build to be honest, as it's a elemental focused build. Handicraft level 1, Guard Up level 1 and Protective Polish level 1. You also have the Rathalos Mastery set bonus, Critical Element, increasing the elemental damage of an attack when you crit a monster. So as you can see, this is another straightforward elemental build, and thanks to the health regen augmentation and guard up, it provides a few defensive options. The elemental rating for this weapon is actually fairly high, so even though it cannot get to white sharpness, you should be able to do a lot of damage so long as you're taking a monster's weakness into consideration. You can of course replace the Taroth's Crest Thunder with one of the other elemental Taroth Crest weapons if you so wish, and if you do so, just remember to replace the bolt jaws with whatever element you are using. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Poison Earplug build, otherwise known as the Pokey Poison Stick build. This is a build that was made up on stream to fight Arch-Tempered Xenojiva. It utilises the Zora Magdaros set bonus, critical status, as well as the Taroth's Crest Poison. So for this build you'll need the Zora Headgear Gamma, Zora Hide Gamma, Zora Claws Gamma, Korftarov's Malice beta, and the Kieran Legguard's beta. You'll also need the Earplug Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Turov's Crest Poison with an affinity increase augmentation on it. When it comes to the jewels, I've gone for Venom jewels to increase the poison buildup of the weapon. I've added a few Vitality jewels to increase my overall health, a Shield jewel to provide me with the Guard Up skill, Tenderizer jewels to boost my affinity slightly, and finally an Expert jewel to again help the affinity rating. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, 495 attack, blue sharpness, unfortunately it cannot get to white, 10% affinity, which is 60% so long as you're going for weak points, with a 770 poison rating. You'll also have a decent defense against fire and thunder, but you're fairly weak to water and ice. As for the skills, you'll have Earplugs level 5, preventing any character loss when a monster roars at you. You'll have Health Boost level 3, increasing your overall health. Poison Attack level 3, which helps your poison build up. Free Elemental level 3, bringing out the full poison rating of the Turov's Crest poison weapon. Critical Eye level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Windproof level 2, a byproduct of the gear but can still be useful. Tremor Resistance level 2, again a byproduct of the gear but can be useful when it comes to tanking. Handicraft level 1, Guide Up level 1, and you'll also have the Zora Magdaros Mastery set bonus critical status, increasing the ailment damage when you crit a monster. This overall is a fairly tanky build. Allow your hunter to be a strong defensive tank thanks to health boost, earplugs, guard up, so on and so forth, whilst at the same time being able to damage a monster through the high poison rating, which will tick away at the monster's health over time. Of course, if you wanted to make this build more offensive, you could drop some of the Vitality jewels in favour for more Critical Eye jewels, but as it stands, this build is fun to use against monsters weak against poison. You could, of course, swap out the Turov's Crest Poison for another ailment weapon, but if you do so, remember to switch out the Venom jewels for whatever ailment you are using. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is the Health Regen build. This is a highly defensive build focusing on Health Regen, which creates a high survivability build. Anyway, for this build you'll need the Empress Crown Gamma, Valhazak Mel Beta, Valhazak Braces Beta, Empress Coil Beta, and the Valhazak Greaves Gamma. I'm also using an Attack Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Empress Lance Ruin. This has a Health Regen augmentation on it. As for your jewels, I've gone for a combination of Vitality and Medicine jewels to all help boost the health regen of this build. I've then gone for a Sharp jewel to allow me to keep that white sharpness for a little bit longer via Protective Polish. I've added an extra Attack jewel to get attack boost to level 4. I've then added a Shield jewel for guard up, Tenderizer jewels to help the affinity a little bit, and then there's 2 spare slots, so I've added a Maintenance and Grinder jewels. But these two are really down to personal preference. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 150 stamina, 499 attack, white sharpness, 5% affinity, 150 blast rating, with strong defenses against water and thunder, but you're fairly weak to dragon. You'll also have the following skills: Attack Boost level 4, Health Boost level 3, Recovery Up level 3, Recovery Speed level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Peak Performance level 3, which increases your attack so long as you have maximum health, and this combined with the natural health regen of this build means that hopefully it should be kicking in quite a bit. Tool Specialist level 3, which reduces the cooldown on your mantles and boosters. Wide Range level 2, a byproduct of the gear but can still be useful for healing your teammates if needed. Speed Sharpening level 1, this is thanks to the Grinder jewel. It just speeds up sharpening the weapon, which means you can apply the Protective Polish a little bit quicker. Guard Up level 1, Protective Polish level 1, Hasten Recovery level 1, which allows you to regen a little bit of health when attacking a monster. And you also have the set bonuses Valhazak Vitality, Super Recovery, which increases your natural health regen, and the Lunostra's Favour set bonus Stamina Cap Up, increasing your stamina. Having more stamina allows you to potentially block more incoming attacks, as blocking consumes stamina. So as you can see, this is a very defensive build, but has a little bit of offensive options behind it. Nonetheless, you should be hard to take down thanks to the sheer amount of health recovery you have with this build. There's not really any need to replace any of this gear, as it should be available on all systems now. Anyway, let's move on to the next build, which is a variation of the health regen build aimed at tanking Behemoth. So it's the Behemoth tank build. For this build you'll need the Empress Crown Beta, Empress Mel Beta, Valhazak Braces Beta, Valhazak Coil Gamma, and the Valhazak Greaves Gamma. You'll also need the Ironside Charm free, and for my weapon I'm using the Empress Lance Ruin, which has a health regen augmentation on it. As for your jewels, again I've gone for Vitality and Medicine jewels. I've also added a few Tenderizer jewels to help boost the affinity slightly. I've added a Sharp jewel to allow me to keep that white sharpness for a little bit longer. I've also added a Mind's Eye jewel, which prevents your weapon from bouncing off a monster. Behemoth is notorious for having a thick hide, which even with white sharpness means that your weapon can at times bounce off the monster. The Mind's Eye jewel should counter this. I've then added a shield jewel to provide the guard up skill, which is a must for Behemoth or Extreme Behemoth, and then I've added maintenance jewels to allow for the tool specialist skill to be maxed out, allowing me to use my mantles and boosters more often. Now if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 150 stamina, 472 attack, white sharpness, 0% affinity, which is actually 50% should you be going for weak points, 150 blast rating with strong defenses against water and thunder, but you're fairly weak to dragon. As for the skills, you'll have peak performance level 3, health boost level 3, recovery up level 3, recovery speed level 3, weakness exploit level 3, guard level 3, which improves the effectiveness of your guard when you block a monster's attack, tool specialist level 3, evade extender level 2, a byproduct of the gear but can still be useful, dragon attack level 1, again a byproduct of the gear, not really needed on this build whatsoever, Mind's Eye level 1, guard up level 1, protected polish level 1, hasten recovery level 1, which allows you to regen some health when attacking, and you'll have the Valhasak vitality set bonus super recovery and Luna's favor set bonus stamina cap up. So as you can see, this is one of the tankiest builds there is, even tankier than the normal health regen build. I would say that this build can be used against Extreme Behemoth as well, but if you are going to, it may be advisable to swap out some of the jewels in favor for the defense lock jewel, which provides you the Iron Skin skill, which prevents the defense down debuff. This is a nasty debuff he can put on players, so it may be wise to take out either some maintenance jewels or medicine jewels. Anyway, let's move on to the final build, which is the budget build. This allows players to create a build that is fairly decent but can be made with the base vanilla version of the game with no updates. Again, this is a build that focuses more on defense, thanks to the Lance's natural ability to be a strong defensive weapon, and provides you with the Uragan set bonus. Guard up means that this is one to consider if you don't have a shield jewel. Anyway, for this build you'll need the Dragon King Eye Patch Alpha, Basil Mel Beta, the Uragan Vambraces Beta, Uragan Coil Beta, Uragan Grease Beta, and the Handicraft Charm 3. I'm also using the Love Sorrow weapon simply because of the way it looks. You can use whatever weapon you want with this build, it doesn't matter. Love Sorrow, I've also added a health regen augmentation onto it for more survivability. As for your jewels, now this is a budget build, so you may not have access to loads of jewels as it is, but hypothetically, should you get the best jewels there is in the game, even in the base version, the vanilla version of the game, I would advise adding some Vitality jewels, Tenderizer, Mighty, and a Sharp jewel. This will help boost your survivability as well as increase your affinity capabilities with the weapon. It will also provide you with protected polish, allowing you to keep that white sharpness for a little bit longer. But like I said, this is a budget build. You may not have all of these jewels, and in all honesty, they're not vital for this build to work. Anyway, if you've done what I've done here, you should have a build with 150 health, 100 stamina, 495 attack, white sharpness, 30% affinity, which will be 80% should you go for weak points, 270 dragon attack with average Elder Seal, and you'll have a strong defense against fire, but you're fairly weak to water, ice, and dragon. You'll also have the following skills: Guard level 4, Health Boost level 3, Weakness Exploit level 3, Handicraft level 3, Maximum Might level 3, Part Breaker level 1, a byproduct of the gear but can still be useful, and Protected Polish for level 1. You'll also have the Uragan's Protection set bonus, Guard Up, allowing you to block unblockable attacks. So as you can see, this is a pretty straightforward budget build that focuses on defense, allowing you to have that guard up skill, which allows you to block unblockable attacks. Whilst it does mean you will be lacking in attack when it comes to this build, meaning that you won't get hunts done very fast, it means that you shouldn't have to worry too much about survivability whatsoever with this build. So there we have it, those are the builds that I like to use for the Lance. Of course, Monster Hunter World is always being updated with new monsters and gear, which can potentially cause these builds to change and become even stronger. So if any major updates happen to any of these builds, I'll be sure to release an updated video. Remember also that any task in Monster Hunter World can be taken on with almost any weapon and gear set. You don't have to use what is used in these videos, these are just the sets that I personally like to use. Anyway, I hope you found this video helpful or informative, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing the builds I use for the Lance in Monster Hunter World. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.